My name is Naomi and I am a First 6 pupil at Cornwall Street Chambers. I will be starting on my feet in April and I've been under the supervision of Oliver Woolhouse, who is a criminal advocate. In answering why I'm passionate about providing free legal aid to the criminally accused, I'd start with a principle, which is that you are innocent until you're proven guilty. It is this principle that I think is the cornerstone of a democratic society, and it's incredibly important for criminal defence advocates like myself to uphold this principle. It's essential that it is the prosecution who are held to account, and they are the ones who have to prove that the defendant is guilty rather than the other way round. This, as I say, avoids corruption and means that the law performs an essential function where it provides checks and balances on a state that has a lot of power. In a society, we are not all born equal, and there are a number of imbalances that act on a structural level. Therefore, I find it's very important to me that there is legal aid, because it means that whenever a defendant enters the courtroom, they are equal. Each defendant has the right to legal representation, no matter their means or where they are from or what other kind of experiences they've had in their life. When they set foot in that courtroom, they are equal. And that is what legal aid to me means. In the past 4 months, I've assisted my pupil supervisor, Oliver Woolhouse, in a number of very important cases. The one case that sticks in mind, and I'd use as an illustration of why I think the work that Oliver Woolhouse does and the work that I've been able to assist with, is a case where we had a client who was a 3-striker in a burglary case, and the law in the England and Wales means that once it's your 3rd time committing a domestic burglary, then a mandatory minimum sentence applies. So our challenge was to try to explain to the court why we felt that mandatory minimum shouldn't be applied, and instead he should be given something like a suspended sentence or a community order or something like that. We found out a number of points. So firstly, he had been incredibly unwell at the time at which this burglary had been committed. He actually had a sort of psychotic episode, so we were able to say that actually that's very unusual circumstances, and that's a very potent reason for why the mandatory minimum shouldn't apply. And also, part of that argument was actually that although it was domestic burglary in the sense that it was a pub, and that is slightly different to say breaking into someone's house or something like that. So Oliver was able, with my assistance, to convince the court that actually there were enough unusual circumstances to mean that the mandatory minimum was disapplied, and he was able to get a suspended sentence, which was a very important thing for him because he needed help. He had a lot of alcoholic issues. He was an alcoholic, and he had a lot of drugs and alcohol issues as well. So it's just an example of how actually when you've got a really good defence advocate and you can really work hard on a case and come up with really good arguments, that you can achieve real justice, because otherwise he would have had to go to prison, and that probably wouldn't have been the best thing for that defendant. From what I've seen, there have been a number of challenges to the criminal bar and the legal aid. I'd say firstly, resources. The courts are extremely overloaded at the moment, just due to lack of resources, and unfortunately the government seems to be reducing the amount of capacity that the courts have at the moment rather than increasing it. So that's quite a big difficulty for the criminal bar, I'd say, is just having enough time, enough courts, and enough time for all the cases to be heard which need to be heard. So quite consistently, if a trial will be floating and there isn't a judge for it to be assigned to, so a lot of the time trials get put back and back and back and back. So for defendants who aren't in custody, they can find that actually their trial isn't being heard for a very, very long time just because of the lack of resources. So that's quite a big challenge. There are also quite a lot of challenges being a defence criminal advocate around things such as the CPS. Similarly, they have a lot of troubles with resources as well. So there are consistently, no fault of their own, but a failure to serve documents on the defence in time. So quite a lot of defence advocates will turn up at court and find that actually the CPS haven't disclosed what they were meant to disclose, which obviously has an impact on them being able to give the best legal advice to the defendant and being able to respond, because the whole point is having time limits is so that the defence know what the prosecution case is and they can respond. So unfortunately, a lot of the time this isn't actually happening. The project sounds like an absolutely fantastic opportunity for helping the legal system in Myanmar. And as I say, it's so important to have good criminal defence advocates who can increase the accountability of the government and of the state and provide an essential checks and balances to the legal system. It sounds like you're doing absolutely fantastic work and giving people one of the most fundamental rights, which is the right to legal representation. And without projects such as the justice centres acting in Myanmar, then yeah, it sounds like there would be a real lack of them. So yeah, keep up the good work, it's fantastic.